All right, it's time. It's Friday. We're here. I'm Jeff Blankenburg, and my light is red. Um, we spent some time on Wednesday building out the framework for being able to change my lamp from the chat. And I'm going to check here just to see if this is still working. And I'll be setting the example for you. If I do that in the chat. No, that's not going to work. If I try that instead. Oh my gosh, it works. Okay, so I had to change some things, but I've added more flexibility. And there's now a lamp command in the chat. And what that gives you is the ability to designate your color just in the chat. So it used to be, the original version that I built was very simple, and I was just scanning the chat for any word that was a specific set of colors. I think I had 10 or 12 colors that you could control. And so now when you say exclamation point lamp, and then add on the name of the color that you would like to use, separating them by a space. Good morning, Trey Lass. Thank you for being here. It's always good to see you. But by doing exclamation point lamp space blue, it changes it to blue. If I do exclamation point lamp red. Revolver Ocelot, thank you for being here. But you can see that any of you can now in chat easily change the light, and it's working again. The thing that I was doing was I was pushing it through the if this then that API, and something was happening. I don't know if I was getting throttled or what the issue was, but I have now moved, and I'm using the LifeX API, which is the API for the light bulb that I have in the lamp. And it seems to work well now. Now, what's cool about this is that it doesn't just have to be base colors anymore either. I can say, if I say lamp, what was a color we didn't have before? There we go, Trey Tomlin, nice work. You got it to be purple. Kevin Evans, thank you for being here. It's good to see everybody this morning on this Friday. I'm ready for the weekend. I don't know how the weekend is really different than the normal week, but I spend less time coding and more time doing stuff in the house. Now, ice cream black was an interesting concept, and you'll notice that it didn't work. I have some things that I've written to try to respond to you to let you know that it didn't work, but obviously a light bulb can't be black. But we can do any color name that we want now. So if I do lamp chartreuse, did I spell that right? I think I did. I don't know if I got that right or not. But we can do any of the named colors that you can think of. So lamp violet. That's already purple. Lamp. Lord of Sound tried ochre, but you got to do, yeah, there you go. It doesn't seem like that's working, but I don't know if that's an actual color that it knows. If I go to red though, it's still working, right? Yeah, the service is still working, so that's good. The other thing that's pretty awesome about this is that I can do things like this now. So if I do lamp, and then I say see that I get a very nice gray. Yeah, ice cream. You can do hex colors, and so that is super cool too. So any hex color that you want to drop in there will work, and I'm going to work on adding some more varieties of colors as well. I can't support like RGB yet. I don't have any designation to recognize those values. But those are some of the other things that I'm going to work on, ice cream, are things like a police light or blinking or other stuff. But I haven't built any of that stuff yet. But all this is doing, the thing that I was really hung up on Wednesday was how do I get this thing to run? What is it doing? How is it going? And so I had to work with Jeff Nunn. I knew this was a piece that he had gotten figured out. And the thing that solved it for me was that I basically set up an EC2 instance where I have Node running, And I have an application running in Node. So it's not like a Lambda, because Lambdas only run when they're called. This is running all the time. And I think I can show you if I go here. Not there. This. You can see that all of the command messages are coming through this Node application. And so as we type something into the box, you can see like even Lord of Sound's message. Do you ever unmute that army of Alexa devices? Which I will answer in a moment. But all of that stuff is coming through, and one of the things that I'm struggling with is figuring out how to effectively act on these status codes that you see here. So I can blow that up a little bit. I know what 422 is. I've wrapped it in J's just so I make sure I'm not missing any space. But the 202 is a valid color, so that means that LifeX accepted it as a color and responded back and said, "Hey, 202, that's a valid color." If I get a 422, that means that it's an invalid color, and then I'm going to have to build some additional functionality to handle things like blinking or other kind of transitions. There's a party mode. There's a bunch of stuff that I can do. So this is the application that's running, and that's more or less how we're monitoring the chat. So none of this stuff's being recorded or anything, any more than Twitch already does. But this is how all of this stuff works, and you can see that it doesn't even know whose names and things are. I'm not even checking any of that stuff. But I suppose I could go in and say, oh, I don't want any of Ice Cream Code's messages to apply. Like I'm shutting him down. I could go in and add a filter to say like, oh, when he says lamp stuff, it doesn't work for him. But I'm not going to do that because I like being able to have you guys play. That's okay that you can see my work calendar. There's not a lot going on there, other than like live streaming and some meetings and stuff. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea, Oxygen Box, to let people know if they're bored or interested or whatever. I generally try to monitor that via the chat, but maybe letting people set the color. Yeah, we'll have to think on that. Anyway, that's what I did on Wednesday afternoon and yesterday, and even a little bit this morning. I worked on that. But what I want to do is get back to the scavenger hunt that we've been building. And I have a bunch of stuff in here that still really needs to be done in order to make this working. And the first thing that I need to do is go to Airtable and reset my data, because I haven't actually worked on this much this week at all, or I guess since Monday. So the first thing that we need to do with the scavenger hunt is reset my data so that this all applies. So you can see that I have my user puzzle. I finished all the puzzles. This is something that we tested on Monday. And so I want to get rid of these so that I can continue to test a bunch of the things that I want to try. So I'm going to delete those user puzzle records. Now it's as if I haven't played this week's game. And we're looking at the game that takes place on April 18th. So that's still this week. There will be a new game that starts tomorrow. That's the one that's active. That's the one that has the puzzles. So if I jump over to the Alexa view, let's hope this still works. And it does. I love when things just work. I should be able to do open scavenger hunt. Oh, it didn't seem to like that.
What is your
Open scavenger hunt.
I've sent you a text message
Awesome.
for the first
I can't
puzzle.
hear that, but I
Good
assume
luck.
that's working.
What is your answer?
Yeah. Smith.
That is correct. You nailed it. Here is your next puzzle. This is puzzle 2. What is your answer?
Cool. My videos and my images are still working. Stop.
Goodbye.
It's still going to play, isn't it? Yep. Quit. Okay. So the game is still working as I want it to. So I just wanted to check that and make sure that everything's Structurally sound. I want to go back. Lord of Sound asked a question. Do you ever unmute that army of Alexa devices just to hear the cacophony when you say Alexa? Well, this is one of the nice things about having all of these devices is that it doesn't actually work that way. So because they're all on the same account...
Sorry, I don't know that.
I didn't unmute one. I guess I had one unmuted. They don't all respond. So what happens is when you talk to a set of devices, or let's say you have a few scattered around your house, the one that heard you fastest, which generally should be the one closest to you, that is the only one that will respond. And so it recognizes that all of the individual devices received a request, and those were sent to the service, but it is filtering at that point to say, well, this is the first one I got, so I'm going to keep this one, and I'm not going to use any of the others. So they won't all respond. They won't all call back at the same time. So there's no cacophony of sound, unfortunately, Lord of Sound. But that used to be true a long time ago when Alexa devices were first out. That filtering service wasn't there. But automatically Alexa recognizes if two devices on the same account make the same request, let's only respond on one of them because it's unlikely that that was something that was done on purpose. All right, contest idea. Once per stream, prize is channel points or subscription. I have a routine running that at some random time in the stream checks to see who the last person was to successfully change the light. They win the contest. The Lumen King of the Hill. Channel points or subscription. I don't know how I award channel points. That's something else that I need to figure out. I've also found out that all three of my emotes are now available. So the Bob Ross is there too. So if you kick this open, or I guess if I do this, you can now see that the Bob Ross is available. Now, I think for all of you, the only way you can get it is by using some of your channel points to get that. And then it seems to only be available for like 12 hours. I was kind of disappointed by that. So what I'm going to look into doing, because they have another mechanism. If I move the edge of my browser, I can't do that. Let's do this. If I move this over, there is a place where you can do these bits. Now, I know this is money, so I don't actually want you to spend any money. But I do want to let you know with the bits, I think that you can get like icons, and I can put emotes on these as well. And I think the cheapest one is a penny. So I don't really know how this works. I would love to give you guys more custom emotes, but I think the thing that I'm really missing is a bigger audience. There's one last requirement I have for being able to yeah, it's just a random emote, and there's only 3 of them that I can even create. I'm still figuring this game out, but there's one requirement left. So there's 3 levels to being a Twitch streamer. The first one is just I don't know what you're a streamer, I guess. I don't even know that there's a name for it. Then at some point you gain enough of an audience, you have to meet a bunch of requirements to get to a status which they call affiliate. And that's what I currently am. And it wasn't impossibly hard. And with getting affiliate, I get access to a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So I can now do emotes, I can do subscriptions and these bits and all this other stuff. But in order to get more slots, more available space to do more emotes, I have to get to partner. Partner is like the top level, and the only requirement from that I'm missing is that I have to average 75 viewers a stream. That's a lot. It's not even like I could do it once. Like I have to for a 30-day period, I have to stream 25 hours in that time. Here, let's see if we can actually just find that. If I go to Twitch, let's not have my video play. In here, I think. I know, you think a Bob Ross wig on its own would be enough, but they have a lot of things you have to do. Is it insights? achievements. Is it in here? Path to partner. So you can see that there are 3 requirements that I have to achieve. The first one is I have to stream for 25 hours. This is all of this has to happen in the same 30-day period. So I'm generally staying over 25 because I do 6 hours a week. That's 24 alone. And then if I do anything else or I run long or whatever, I'm generally staying above the 25 hours a month. So that's pretty easy. Streaming on 12 different days. Again, I go 3 days a week, 4 weeks in a month. That's 12. So I'm doing what is expected of me to get to partner. The one that I don't have is 75 viewers. And this is the one that's really, really difficult to get because this isn't a reflection of who's watching. Like there's 14 people watching right now, which obviously isn't 75, but it's something. There are some streams where I will peak at like 60 or 90 even, but it's a peak, right? And so I have to average over the 2 hours. I have to average 75, which is a lot. So that means there's going to be entire streams where I have to have 75 viewers at once. So this is going to take some work, and that's why I continue to think about innovating and giving you guys a way to engage and play, because I want to make this. I'm hoping that just me developing stuff is fun, but doing it in a way that makes people want to come back and continue to engage and talk to me and do this kind of stuff, because that gives me the ability to do more things here. But so you can see the requirements for affiliate were actually pretty easy. I had to stream for 8 hours. I had to have 50 followers. I had to stream on 7 different days. And again, this is in a 30-day period. And I have to average 3 viewers. So the 3 viewers is pretty manageable. Like that was pretty easy. But 75 is that's a whole different ball game. That's when you really are attracting a big audience. So 9 Lives, thank you for that. I think like we continue to grow. We continue to have new people show up every time. I just don't know how to better get the word out about what we're doing here and what we're trying to accomplish. So that's where we're at. That's the thing that I need to be able to unlock a bunch of other emotes and a bunch of other stuff. 9 Lives, thank you for the follow. And welcome to the club. So I'll close that. That's enough about Twitch and what's going on there. I really want to get down to writing some code today. Treylas says that those emotes require a subscription. That's how they're built. The emotes are meant to be things that only people that are subscribed can use. And I am not asking any of you to subscribe. I'm not doing this even slightly for the money. I'm trying to do it as a way to grow an audience and talk to people and share my knowledge and my experience with everybody else. But Twitch is generally built for people that are gamers or whatever to be able to make an income from this website. And so that's something that I'm still trying to figure out, because my goals are not in line with what the average Twitch streamer is. And I think one of the things that I'm interested in doing is figuring out a way to do a donation. So you guys wouldn't be giving me money, but instead we as a group, if you want to buy some bits or you want to throw a subscription in or whatever, we'll have to figure out a way to let you guys potentially buy that stuff, but done in such a way that we're actually making like a donation, so that it feels like you guys aren't giving me money, because that's not necessary. But if we could let you guys do some of this stuff, and we can do something good for the community, maybe we donate it to Women Who Code or some other organization that supports people that have had have fewer opportunities in the technology world. I think those kinds of things would be outstanding. So I probably need to put something formal around that. But I will let you guys all know that if you get a subscription, even if you use your Twitch Prime subscription, or use bits or whatever, as I add emotes to that, we'll figure out a way to take all of those funds and we'll track them somehow and make a monthly donation to an organization. Maybe we'll switch it up. I know that C# Fritz does a good job of this, and he is a partner. He has a big following. So maybe something like that would work, and we could find a way to do something really good as a group. So I'll think about that stuff too. Yeah, and I agree with you, Ice Cream. I think popular streamers in science and technology don't usually have 75 viewers. It's weird. If I come on here, I've gone on a couple times and played things like StarCraft and a few other things. And the moment I stream a game and I say that I'm streaming that game, I'll instantly have 10, 12 people just show up. They've never been here before. They've never seen me. But it's very interesting to me that just by saying I'm playing a specific game, people will just appear because they care about that game. And we don't have the luxury as developers to say, like, oh, I'm building for Alexa or I'm writing JavaScript or anything like that. They just know science and technology. Lord of Sound says, hold weekly contests with prizes to winners in the game. Then get the word out to Star Wars community. Then do the donation idea for a charity. Star Wars folks are friendly too. Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea, is to have my Alexa skill kind of push people here. That's an interesting idea. I'll have to think about that. Good morning, LJ. Thank you for being here. W. Giorgio. Bunch of folks. Yeah, so that's something that we're gonna have to figure out. I don't know exactly how to do it. I probably should have a conversation with Jeff Fritz, who is a friend of mine, and figure out exactly what he's doing and how. But yeah, lots to think about. Okay, so let's go back here. And figure out how to do some more of this game. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is so one of the things, Lord of Sound, that is important to note is that once you get partner, you are partner. I don't think you fall out, because I know there have been times where I haven't streamed enough or whatever, and I haven't lost my affiliate status. So I feel like once you're in, you're in. And maybe there is an amount of time that if it passes, like maybe I stop streaming for a year, maybe they kick me out, but I don't know the specific rules about that. The Force for Change organization would be pretty cool. I feel like I want to keep it in the development world, but I'll take a look at that. Maybe, if my internet wants to cooperate. Oh, there we go. Force for Change. Now, is this like a... I love FIRST Robotics. My daughter and my son both really want to get involved in FIRST Robotics. So that's pretty cool. All right, I'll have to check this out. That's partner or no partner. There's no try. I love it. So yeah, maybe we'll have to play with that a little. Okay, so I have a few things I think that I still need to do. I mean, the skill is working in that I can ask a user for a phone number. I can ask them to validate it. They can play the game. One of the things that I don't do very well is when we start the skill, I do one of a few things. If I don't have your mobile number, I can never decide if I want to sit on that stool or not, but we're going to stand for now. If I don't have your mobile number, then yeah, that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm just going to ask you for your mobile number. If I have your mobile number, but it's not validated, then I'm going to send you to the phone number intent handler again. And if I have your mobile number and it is validated, that's where I welcome you and give you the next puzzle and whatever. Otherwise, there's this case, but I don't think this case actually even exists, because you either don't have your mobile phone number, it hasn't been validated, or you have both. So I actually think this else case probably doesn't exist, so I'm going to delete it. So those are the three cases. Now, when I get to the next puzzle thing, Lourdes, I'm going to read that in a second. That's a book. Give me one moment. When I come in here, this is where I check to fix their phone number. This is where I check their validation pin if they have it. But what I really want to check is the puzzle thing. When I send them here, I think I'll send you a second text message. That's the thing that I'm trying to validate, is if I open the skill and I get the puzzle and I leave, when I come back, do I get the text message again? So let's check our data first. Because I'm okay if they get the text message again. I just want to make sure that it's working as expected. So I have in here, I have a text response for puzzle 1. And I'm going to get rid of my response for this. So what I'm testing here is, do I get a second text message when you leave and come back? So let's give that a try. Come on, remote. There we go. Open scavenger hunt.
I've sent you a text message for the first puzzle. Good luck. What is your...
Stop.
Goodbye.
Okay, what's standing out to me right now is that I'm not getting any text message. That's not really the functionality that I want at all. So let's go look at my logs and see why I'm not even getting a text message. So that's right now. Oh, because I have the wrong phone, so I'm texting somebody else. That's why I didn't get a text message. So for user, I need my actual phone number there. A normal user wouldn't be able to validate a bad phone number. That was something that I was testing. Okay, so let's try that again. Open scavenger hunt.
I've sent you a text message for the first puzzle. Good luck. What is your answer?
Did I get a message?
What is your answer?
I did not get a text message. This was working, right? Like we did this. Sending text message right there. Why it didn't come through? All right, well, let's look at one more thing. This isn't really what I wanted to spend my time doing this morning. So I look at text messaging. Those all seem to be failing, huh? I wish they told me why, or I don't know, anything useful. Sometimes I get so frustrated by this stuff. How can you tell me that I have all these failed messages, but you can't tell me anything about them? This is where I want to log the delivery status. We went through this fight already. That's the same Lambda, but I don't have anything about text messages in here. I don't know. This stuff drives me crazy. Okay, so let's not worry about that. I wanted to do something else. So one of the things that really stands out to me is the ability to capture answers. I'm assuming it works because it worked once, and I haven't changed anything, so I don't know why the sending of a text message isn't working now, and that everything's failing. I'll have to look at that another time when I care enough to focus on it, because it's just making me angry right now. But the stuff that I would like to focus on is the capturing of the answer. So we have this answer intent handler, and this works right now. We demonstrated that earlier when I said Smith, and it catches the answer that I gave and validates that you got the right answer based on, you got the right answer based on what the question was that was asked. So I think the thing that I want to do next is make sure that, this can go away. I got rid of that. That is now happening. And I can tell you whether or not you got a right or wrong answer. But what I really want to be able to do is dynamic entities. I want to be able to take the values that I have in my database here for puzzle, and I want to set the answers to those things to be this. Because I think the way I have it structured right now is this is my model, and if we come down and look at my answers down here, we have all of these synonyms that we created for this answer. So we need to dynamically update the answer slot. So how do I want to do that? Well, when I ask the user a question, which comes in the give puzzle function, before I send back my response, which is always happening at the bottom here. Yeah, looks like it. So down here, we're going to need to do some dynamic entity stuff. And this is going to happen somewhere in this chunk of code where I have checking all this stuff. And Schriebvogel is the last name of Joe Exotic. And that was the initial puzzle that I built. Was during the TV show Tiger King, he changes his name 3 times, his last name, depending on who he's married to at the time. And so the puzzle clue is Joe Exotic, with exotic crossed out 3 times with a tiger background. And you have to know or say all 3 of the last names that he changes that he has had in that show. And you ideally can say them in any order. So that is where the Schriebvogel came from. The thing that I need to do is remember the syntax for doing dynamic entities, and then populate that and get it. So let's start there. I'm not even going to look at this page because it's just making me angry. Alexa, dynamic entities. Here we go. Look, I've been to this page before. Okay, so I think there's just some syntax in here that looks like this. We're going to take this chunk out, all but the last bit. Did they cut that off at the end? No. So the thing I don't need is the directives. I just need that. Oh, look, they've got it right here. So I need to create a directive that looks like this. And then I'll need to do this add directive line down here. So the first thing we should do is make sure that we're actually in a situation where there is a puzzle. So that's got to be inside this if statement, because if there aren't any puzzles, then I'm going to say something like this down here, like, hey, you've already won. Good job. You've completed this week's game. But if you haven't already won, then I want to grab these values and populate my answer slot with them. And so if the response record is greater than 0, then this is check and see if we should send a text message, check if we should write a card, check if there's an image for that. Then we check and see if there's any media for APL. So once all of that has happened, I could probably put it right here. So we'll do a little console logging preventive. Excuse me. And we'll say creating dynamic entities. And then we're going to drop this chunk right here, but we're going to get rid of most of it. So now I have a dynamic entity, and that's great. And then down here, I'm going to need to say, like right after that, handler input dot response, response builder dot add directive. And this is where I'm going to put in, and I don't need this long name, but we'll just call it dynamic entity. And we'll take that. And that's what we're going to pass in as our directive here. So I obviously don't want airport slot type stuff. So the thing that I want to do is change this to answer. Oh, and we're going to fix something else too because it drives me crazy. I am a double quoter. I would love to know your opinions on this in the chat. But when I am working with strings in code, they are double quoted. And so this solves a bunch of problems for me, especially when I have string values like last names that might have an apostrophe. Then I don't have to escape characters or anything like that. So let's back that up to SJC. Okay, so I have my values, and all of that is good. So W. Giorgio, if you didn't know this, this is dynamic entities. This allows me to replace the values that are in a slot at runtime with data from my database or whatever. The Dreamsaver says he prefers backticks. I have played the backtick game. I tried living in that world for a little while, but I don't know. I like the way double quotes look. Maybe that's where I get hung up on this. But yeah, like this seems to be the thing that I do over and over and over is replace double quotes. And I know there's a ton of single quotes in this code from where I've copied it from a template or from a previous version that I just never changed. But at some point I will go through this and get rid of all the single quotes because I hate them. I also noticed that what this brought in gave me like half tabs and stuff. So we'll fix some of that stuff too. I really only need this one. I'm not going to see any of this anyway because that goes there. This one goes here. There and that goes. No. Where does that go? Oh, I see. I like that. And I don't even need a third one because this is all going to be dynamically filled in too. Wow, Kevin Evans, thank you, man. Much appreciated. So is that now what have I screwed up? Is it one of those? Maybe. That feels like overkill now. And then we can back some of these up to the appropriate line. Thank you, Kevin. Much appreciated, and I really enjoy doing this too. So I'm glad to hear that you are enjoying this. Feels like I've got an extra something in here. Why isn't everything lining up for me? Back you guys up, which means this goes here. Shouldn't be here. How about that? How do you feel about that? Okay. Cool. So we've got our dynamic entity structure. The thing that we don't have is the entities themselves. And the place that we're going to get those is from the record that we get out of our database. So what I do here is I have my answer, and then I will also have synonyms. And the way that I structure synonyms is to just do like quotes, comma, quotes, comma, quotes, and it's basically just a string, but it works well for being able to pull that into what I'm doing. So the first thing I want to do is take this list here. And I'm going to go over to Airtable, and I'm going to try and drop this in and see what it does to me. Okay, so it's got a bunch of extra white space that I don't need. When do I get there? Come on. Oh my gosh, there's lots of space. Okay, so go. And this is just something that I'm going to have to keep doing, but I'll have my synonyms in here now. And with these synonyms, I can fill in my dynamic entities. So let me just clean up this list here really quick, just so it's working. And then we'll give this a run, where we'll fill in that array. All right, too many synonyms. And we're good. All right, so I have my list of synonyms, which looks like that. They're all just variations on the answer, which is generally how it should be. And so now I just need the answer and the synonyms columns in my code. So what I will do here in my index, excuse me, Kevin, I gotta tell you, like it's really meaningful to me that anyone would stick around and keep showing up, and even to offer a compliment like that, that's sticking with me, man. Thank you. It feels good to be able to do stuff that people appreciate. And if everybody hated this, I'll find something else to do. But the fact that you guys are enjoying this means a lot to me. Okay, so I guess I only need to put in the one answer, right? I only need the answer. I was thinking I was going to do this for each of the 5 questions, but there's no reason for me to load. This is where it gets messy. I just realized. No, I'll always ask you the question. Well, I'm still going to do this, but I may have to also manually update the slots. So I only need the one value, And we're going to keep a lot of this. Actually, I can do this right in line. So the ID, that is going to be the record ID. So in here, wherever I have it, we have our session attributes.game0. This will be the thing that I want, I guess. And in here, I can just say session attributes.game0 dot record ID. And then for the name, this will be the value. So this will be session attributes.game dot, what do I call it? Answer. And then in here, do I need I don't think I can just throw that string in there. How do I want to do that? How have I done this before? Let's go see how I've done this before. It's always good to go back and look at previous examples of how I've done a thing. I definitely do this in TKO trivia, so let's take a quick glance at I'm actually doing a split on my commas, huh? Okay. So if I have to make sure that there are synonyms, because there will be times maybe where there isn't. If session attributes dot game 0 dot synonyms doesn't equal undefined. No, let's do equals undefined. No, let's do doesn't equal. I don't care. Undefined. Can't do it right. Can't do it. Doesn't equal undefined. Then this is where we're going to take this concept and we'll just say I have a var called synonyms. So we'll start here and we'll say var synonyms equals that. Is that what I did here? I didn't even define it. All right, that's fine. This then will be the split statement that I just did here. So that's splitting them up by commas, which gives each one of them the string in quotes as individual array values. And then I'm going to need to also do else synonyms 0 equals, and we'll just do so this is if I don't have any synonyms, attributes dot game 0 dot voice response. Is that what I called it? Voice, no. No, I'm just gonna do answer. I'll make it the answer. So answer. So if I don't have any synonyms, then I'll fill the synonyms in as an answer. No, I don't even need to do that. It's an empty array. That's okay. I don't need an else at all. I don't know why I'm stressing over that. Okay, so that is synonyms. That means that this now is an array that I can just pull in here, and I'll just say synonyms. Okay, and that's going to be the only entry. So it'll be interesting to see what the JSON response looks like for this, or the request, I guess. But I think we're good. I think we've got what we need. We create the dynamic entities. We tell it to replace the answer slot with the value that I just gave it, and then we add that directive to our response builder. I feel really good about this, which means it's not going to work. I just want you guys to know that. Ask deploy. Come over here. Okay. So we're just waiting for our code to deploy, and then we'll give this another run. And we'll do that here on my Fire TV stick that is hooked up to my streaming rig. Open scavenger hunt.
There was a problem with the requested skills response.
Okay. What could be the problem? Also, I just noticed that I changed up the song on you guys. What do you think of the new music? Is that a good groove in the back? Is it working for you? Can you even hear it? You did it, Revolver. The lamp is orange. Okay, what was my error? What? I'm not seeing an error. 1051, that's what we just did. Is it that my response builder looks gross? Oh, it's missing the name. Where's the value that I put in there? I thought I did that. Name, value. It certainly looks like I'm providing a value there, doesn't it? And an ID? But I'm not seeing either of those. It's weird that it was just rip those out. Oh, because I'm forgetting. That's why. This needs to be fields. Wasn't going to work anyway. Session attributes .game 0. All right. So I remember how I said it was just going to work. Once again, proved wrong. I'm getting a message from my Fire TV stick that it doesn't support the web API for games and updated software, but it also reports that the software is up to date with the latest version. Well, that's interesting. Can you give me an example of something I could try? Or is this something you're doing in development? I'd love to see if I can give that a run and see if I get the same issue you do. All right, code is fixed. Open scavenger hunt.
I've sent you a text message for the first puzzle. Good luck. What is your answer?
Stop.
Goodbye.
Okay, let's take a look at our... that worked. We didn't get an error. We got into the code. What I want to see here is what that looked like. So 54... So it would have been this one. If we look at the response, that's the response builder is what I want to see. Way down here. I have my value, but I don't have my synonyms. Oh, okay, trade last, I see. So, W. Giorgio says clearing cache unplugged device. I don't know the answer to that specifically, but turning it off and turning it back on again is never a bad idea, I guess. Why are synonyms not coming through? Because of this, fields. Well, I'm getting better at finding my stupidity. That's good. We're already an hour into this. I guess we spent a lot of time talking about Twitch earlier. What if I do... I haven't seen a lot of hex color. I thought you guys would play more with the hex colors now that you can change it to anything. That worked. I'm white. But I could... like if I do lamp pound FF0000, that's red. Boom. But if I get my choice, it's always a white light. That just looks better behind me. But cool. All right. So code has been pushed. One more try. Open scavenger hunt. Maybe. Open scavenger hunt.
I've sent you a text message for the first puzzle. Good luck. What is...
Stop.
Goodbye.
Okay. So we're now back to a place where if we look at the logs for 57, we should see my response builder should now have synonyms in it. And it doesn't. Why doesn't it? If it doesn't equal undefined, did I spell it right? Synonyms, S-Y-N-O-N-Y-M-S, that looks right to me. So if I scroll back up here, I should be able to see me checking to see what puzzles they can do. Game details, this is what I want. Well, that's interesting. The record itself doesn't seem to be passing synonyms. You got to be smarter than yourself. This is the lesson that you all get to learn today. Okay, so up here we have an HTTP GET function call where we call it, we have a filter by formula that tells it all the things that I want to do. But in here, you can see that I have all of these fields that I specifically want. And so it looks like ampersand fields, some gibberish up to here. This is the pattern, and I don't have synonyms in this list. So I think if I just do this, synonyms, save, deploy. There's a very specific reason that I'm doing this, where I'm explicitly designating the fields that I want, rather than just getting all of them. And that's because when we look at this table, there's these extra fields that Airtable creates, and like user puzzle is one of those. So every time a record is put in here and it's associated with a puzzle, so let me create a record for a user, a puzzle. Let's choose the one that doesn't matter right now. You can see that I have these things are associated. So when I come back to the puzzle table, there's now a record here. And I don't mind that these records exist, and they're actually helpful for me, but I don't want to pull all of that data across the wire every single time that I need to find out what puzzle to show a user. I don't care about that data. So because of that, I have to be explicit about, I can't exclude a field, which would be easier. I have to include the fields that I do want. And so that is why I wasn't getting synonyms, is because I wasn't actually requesting that in my list. So let's try that one more time. Open scavenger hunt.
There was a problem with the requested skills response.
Oh. Very interesting. I didn't know there was a synonym length, but I have achieved it. So if we go to the logs for that, we're going to find out that there is a maximum for how many synonyms you can include. Did not know that. Exceeded maximum synonyms length. There's all my synonyms. The length limit is, my synonym length is 352. Their length limit is 140. What is this, a tweet? Okay. 140 characters. It's also interesting that they are escaping my characters. I guess that's maybe just for the error. Okay. I don't think there's a way for me to set a limit. I wonder why they chose that. I know that we're doing a lot of stuff that's kind of we're modifying the model dynamically on the fly, so they try to limit this. I can also only have a maximum of 100 slot values. So I'm going to get rid of all of the ones where I have like tree vogel. Because I pair it back to you now. I will WK White. I'll look at your answer in just a second. Let me finish doing this, and then I'll get back to you. That one's gone. I created all these extra ones that were tree vogel because I found that as an issue as I was going through this, but I don't know that I actually need those. I'll tell you that you got it wrong, and I'll tell you what it was. This should almost cut my length in half, but that's still like 170. 176? 352? Am I doing that math right in my head? Okay. Wish it would tell me how many characters that is. Do like how many characters? It's still 197. Man. Maldonado Passage Revolt. So I can get rid of the first one. How does that help me? Down to 164. I don't know how I can get this shorter. So this is also proving to me to be a limit of Alexa, but only for dynamic entities. If I were to hard code these values, I don't think this would be an issue at all. Then it can be maxed out because they have time to build the model and everything. Let's just get rid of one more, and hopefully it'll work. now under 140. So I'll just take this string here, dump it in here. So I really just want to get past that issue. Open scavenger hunt.
I've sent you a text message for the first puzzle. Good luck.
Stop.
Goodbye.
So now we should see in here, we have an 11.0, no, there's got to be a newer one. Really? Okay. So now if I look at my dynamic entities, W. Giorgio, that's an excellent question, and I see I have a couple of other questions I need to get back to also. The reason is because I'm building something that's universal for a number of puzzles, and so I don't know how many values every puzzle is going to have, but they're not all going to be 3-slot values. And to write the logic to capture all 3-slot values and assemble them together, this would work really well if that was the only question. But for other questions, it might just be one word. And then I've got to write a whole slew of logic to say what's in slot 1, what's in slot 2, what's in slot 3. Then I have to have a database structure where I can compare those 3 values. It just adds to the complexity significantly. Where Alexa should be able to handle these kinds of things just fine, assuming that they're slot values. So that's the reason that I don't have it be 3-slot values. Trade Last asked if there is a clear cache in the Fire Stick menu. I don't know, but we can go look. I have one right here. Preferences. I don't see anything there. Data monitoring? Probably not. No. If I do this, I don't think I want any of that. No, I don't think I have what we need there. I don't know enough about the Fire Stick and if there's a cache or how we would need to clear it. So I don't have great answers for you there. I mean, we could try some web searching, but I don't know what the error is that you're getting or how it's working. It just says it doesn't support the web API for games, which seems surprising to me. Let's look at WK Wyatt's question here. Not sure if this is a place to ask a question. I'm trying to develop a skill, which I've done. When I try and test in the Alexa simulator in the developer console, it's giving me an error. And I'm assuming you've done a search on that specific content. Like if I take... This seems like a base structural issue. Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like you have something structural. As I think about like how this stuff works. The YAML really throws me off. That's something specific to your code. My guess is at the very top of your document, takes me a second to have some of this click. Do you have a statement like this, but maybe one that refers to YAML, WK Wyatt? Is that a thing? That's, oh, you do. Okay, so my guess is in your directory. So, okay, so you have an import YAML someplace. My guess. Oh, you're working in Python. I'm assuming. Let's see. Python YAML module. That's the one I want. So I'm generally a Node developer, WK Wyatt, but let me explain how this works. So there's npm, which is a Node package manager. So this is where things like YAML and the other requirements that I have here, like HTTPS and Airtable and all that stuff. There's these modules of code that I can import that I use in my application. And so to do that, I have to tell it to go get that package, and then I can require it here in my application. So I'm assuming that there's something very similar for Python, although I'm not a Python developer. So if I go to npm and look at the Python module there, that's not what I want. I actually want YAML. So there's a YAML one, and this is how I would use it, right? I would say npm install YAML, and then I would use a require statement. Boy, that looks like Python right there. But this is how I would use this thing. So my guess is that you have to, let's take a look at their GitHub and see what this says. Does anybody know, is Yarn the installer for Python? No, I don't think so, because this is JavaScript. But there's I don't use Yarn. My guess is there is a Python package manager, which I'm not familiar with, and it's not PyYAML. So my guess is it would just be pip install pip install YAML for you, WK Wyatt. So you would go to your directory, to the command line, right? And you would say something like pip install YAML. And I could probably do this and we'll see what happens. I'm using an old version of pip, but that's all you need to do. And then up here at the top of your code, you'll have a imports YAML. So you just don't have the module. That's what's missing for you. And I think once you use pip to go do that, you'll be on your way. So hopefully that answers the question vaguely. But that is that's a little help from TradeLast too, so thank you. Okay, what was I doing? I was doing dynamic entities, and that is now working. But I ran into the 140 character challenge. And the other thing that I want to do is tweak this up, because I think the real struggle that I'm going to run into, is that dynamic entities, and I know W. Giorgio was excited about the dynamic entities. Dynamic entities only work if I have been able to run my skill and update it, because it happens just for the user. It just happens at runtime for that user that I'm updating that slot. But they would have to open my skill. I'd have to ask them the question, and then they would have to give their response, at which point I've had one interaction with them already, which was the welcome, and then I say, what is your answer? And then they respond a second time, and that is when they give me my answer. Dynamic entities works really well for that model. Where it doesn't work is that I've given them a task. They need to figure out, based on this image that I've texted them and given them a number of different ways, they need to figure out what the answer is. And so it's very possible that they could come back to my skill and say, tell scavenger hunt the answer is X. And if they do that, I haven't loaded the dynamic entities yet because they're kind of one-shotting their way right into my skill. And so I won't be able to recognize it as a slot value because I haven't updated the slot. So in order to enable that functionality, I'm going to have to I'm going to have to modify my skill. Karthik, good morning. Thank you for being here, man. Or I guess good evening to you. But I'm going to have to also drop these values into my skill. My interaction model. Awesome. Good to see you've got some Blanken points. I'm glad to hear it. The Bob Ross emote is now here, so I don't know. I think you can only get it with a subscription, maybe. But people have said they've been able to get it with random. I think I can use it if I do this and this. There it is. And the lamp works. That's a nice rich orange you just picked there, WKY. Thank you for that. So I feel like I'm going to need to put these in here like more statically. And to do that, I have a way. So one of the things that I did for my Star Wars skill, which we'll go find the data for, it's in here somewhere, is I built a column in every table that was just called slot values. And what this is a long concatenation of a few values that I need, and I need to fill them in. So the way that my slot values work is I have a field called synonyms, which you can see here, and then I have my name, which is sitting here, and all I do is I pull those things together, including the ID of the field, which is record ID, and I create the JSON that I need for my interaction model. And then I can just copy this entire column, paste it into my interaction model, and I'm done. I don't have to do any formatting or worry about any weirdness. So I think I'm going to do the same thing here to make it easy for myself to be able to update this stuff. So in my scavenger hunt table, we're going to create a new column, and we'll just call it JSON. And it's going to be a formula field, and the formula is going to look like that. So this is where record ID, I'm actually getting the record ID, which happens to be this column, but I'm just getting the raw record ID. And then I have the name and the value, and the value of this is going to be the answer. So instead of name here, it's going to be answer. And then my synonyms, this is where I'm adding a bunch of quotation marks and stuff. But if the length of synonyms is greater than 0, then we're going to put an opening quotation mark. I don't need that, which means I don't need the ampersand. And so I'm going to array join and substitute, but I don't think I'm going to need this closing quotation mark. And then what I'm doing with the substitution is I'm replacing the comma with a quotation mark. So I think I could probably get rid of this too. Substitute and all of this. And does that work? Let's see what that looks like. So this looks pretty good. I have value is Maldonado Passage 3 Vogel with a closing quote, and then I have synonyms, and in here I have an array, which is what I want, and they are all separated by quotation marks as I would want, and then I have the closing brackets there. Alright, so if I change my answers to be Blankenburg, Karthik, none. Jalwani. We should, I guess I'm going to be consistent. I could do Raghupathi. And then this one will be MUOIO. And then I have synonyms, which are blank, Bath. Now we'll do first names. Jeff. Karthik. Gotcha. JB Nunn. Amit. Joe. Joe. Okay. So those are all set up. I have my answers here. So realistically what I should be able to do is just take these 5 values, run over here to my JSON, and instead of this, I should be able to do that. Oh, those values don't have quotes around them. Oh, because I didn't put quotes around them. Do that? Maybe that's something I should have thought about, is how I want to store my synonyms. So let's go back to Star Wars. Maybe I can make my life a little easier. So we'll take this function again, rather than figuring it out. And we'll come back down here to scavenger hunt, and in my function, I'm just going to put everything back the way it was. And we're going to change this to be, this should be answer, and this should be, all of that should be good. And so now you see it's filling in the quotes, but the thing that I'll need to get rid of, let's change this to a long value for a second so I can edit it. Long text, save. We're going to get rid of all the quotes. Now, this could end up hurting me later, because what if I have an answer that needs a comma? I guess I don't really need a comma. So what does that look like? That looks like a valid syntax. So now I should be able to take this rid of these, and the one gotcha to this is I'll always have a trailing comma I need to get rid of, but that looks nice and clean. And then if I really care to, I can bump these out, and I have all of my slot values right there. So the trick with this, the trick I'm going to run into with this is that I want to statically update this, but I have a game that changes like on a second, right? So if it changes every Saturday at noon, I would need to publish this a day or two before to make sure that I can go through certification. And then there'd have to be I know that we have this ability in the dev portal, if you guys haven't seen this. When I publish a skill, one of the things that I can do, let's find it. Oh, I'm in the wrong account. If I look at scavenger hunt, one of the things that I can do for certification, I believe, oh, trade last. I'm glad to hear that works. That's very good news. So in my submission, oh, they won't even show me that? All right, well, anyway, when you go to submit your skill, and I have validation tests because I'm not done building. I haven't filled in most of this information yet. When you submit your skill, you can say, give me certification, but don't publish my skill until I want it. But that's still like, it doesn't go live for a couple of hours. I need this to be instantaneous. But dynamic entities I don't think are going to work exactly the way I want them to. So I think the thing that I need to look into is Alexa slot catalog management. I think this is maybe... This is the thing I think I'm going to need to get into, where I have this catalog management API. I can create a custom slot type that references an external data source to get the slot type values. This allows me to create and maintain a catalog of slot type values. Well, this is for exploring, right? That's why I do this stuff on Twitch, is because I feel like if I'm going to sit down and learn something and take it apart, why wouldn't I do that in person or in public? So that didn't help me. Create a definition for your catalog. Where? Okay, let's go to create catalog, I guess. Okay, WKY, thanks, man. I'm sorry I don't have better answers for you on that, but I'm glad you're making some progress. Doesn't this feel like it's very outbound? Like I'm making these calls from some service? I don't understand. Is the idea that the way I read this, and you guys can help me understand this if I'm wrong, this API allows you to create and maintain a catalog of slot type values independent of your Alexa skill. As part of using the API, you provide the URL for your external data source, and the API returns a catalog identifier. I feel like I'm missing something. Let's go back. I mean, this is the docs. This is where I should have all the answers, but let's take a step back from what I'm doing. That's not what I want. Okay. I am too, WKY. You guys help me a ton too, so it's good that you're here and you're getting the answers you need. Well, I'm glad you're here, man. It's good to have those conversations with all of you. I just realized I'm wearing my headphones, but not actually listening to anything. Yeah, this is going to be tricky. How do I want to do this? I need to be able to update my slot values. I don't actually care if the old ones are there. Maybe that's the answer. I will always have the answers from the old one too. And then I could publish it 2-3 days early. That's the only thing that's going to change is the slot values. Huh. Yeah, I think that's how I'm going to have to do it. So I will manually update this, and if the game is on Saturday, I'll push an update, certification update like Thursday. That will push the new slot values in, and I'll just need to make sure that they don't have any conflicts. Well, W. Giorgio, I mean, I agree with you. The trick is I guess I don't have to do it this way. The thing I'm trying to solve for is the people that just say, tell scavenger hunt the answer is this. But I don't even know how likely it is that people would do that. Gold Zulu, Jeff, is there a way to parse a response in a raw format where you just get like the whole JSON and play with it? Is that the question you're asking, Gold Zulu? Well, a blank slot value, I need it to match something. I need what they say to match. Otherwise, it's probably going to hit the fallback intent. Or I could try doing something like a search query slot, but then I have to say they have to have like carrier phrases, which I don't want them to use. I see what you're saying. Yeah, but I need to have slot values. I can't really build my own parser because I think the question you're asking is how can I parse the response? I don't get to see the words the user said. The only thing that I would get to see is the answer, assuming that I defined an answer slot. But writing my own parser is a lot of work to do it properly and effectively. Because I could use the search query slot and get all the words they said, but now I have to like build my own engine to understand what they said and how. Ice Cream, are you sure about that? Because I have, right? If I go to my code and we look at this, I have obviously a request to interceptor, and I do this here, Now, I'm not doing anything related to the dynamic entities. But you're saying I could do this here? And how? I would love to know more about how you're loading dynamic entities without sending a response back to the user. That's not something I've explored. I just assumed it wasn't possible. Because the way that I do it, if I could find my puzzle function, the way that I send responses back, no, it's down here. No, it's up here. The way that I send responses back is by adding a directive to the response builder. So in order to tell, I don't know how that would be possible. The reason that I want the dynamic entities, Gold Zulu, is so that I can update the slot on the fly, so that the values of the answer for the question that I've asked you right now is the only value in the slot. When I do it the manual way, right, when I dump the slot values in here, now I have 5 values. But the only value I really want in my answer slot is the right answer, the question that I'm currently asking you. And so the only way to do that is with dynamic entities. It's not even about certification, but it is a little bit about certification. Because I also want this to happen automatically the moment that the user, that the new game happens, right? If they're playing at 11:45 a.m., Ice Cream, I would love to know. I was really under the impression that that's how it worked. But if you have a way around this, that would be fantastic. Okay, so 11:38. I have got a way to manually update my slot. That's great. I'm dynamically updating the slot with the correct answer with only the correct answer once you've opened the skill. I think both of those are probably necessary. Let's go over here to, yeah, that's actually what it's doing right now, right? So my phone is ringing. That's actually what I'm doing now, right? I've manually updated the slot. I'll have to go through certification to update that each week. And then as the user's playing, I will update the dynamic entity. What are my utterance conflicts? Let's talk about that. Pin validation intent and phone number, but those are two different slot types. This is a 4-digit. I'm okay with that. The thing I want to see is in test. Scavenger hunt. The answer is Smith. What do I get with that? So I haven't updated my model. Thank you, Revolver, for coming. Thank you for sticking around this whole time. I appreciate it. So I got the value that they said, which was Smith. This resolved against a slot value that I used to have, which I don't anymore. So the other thing that I need to do is let's update this and let's push the whole thing because I've updated my model. So we'll ask deploy the whole thing. That changes out my model, puts the answers in there. And now my dynamic entities are in play. So we'll be able to see those in the JSON as well. I like making fast, successful progress on these things, and I feel like I never get to do that. I know that's just how development works. We fight and battle and get things to where we want eventually, but I just want it to work. Okay, we're pushing my model still. In the meantime, man, I've got a bunch of... I have some good friends from high school that we all have this text chain, and it's every once in a while somebody will say something and it just blows up, and before you know it, you've got 86 text messages. All right, we're updating the Lambda now. Okay, everything is updated. Let's go back to our test and say quit. Now, my guess is if I say this same thing, we're not going to get the same result this time. You can see that I had ER success no match, so I did not match anything. And I got Smith. But now, if I say, well, actually, let's do this another way. Let's quit the skill again. And we're going to do it this time, but without Smith. We're going to do one of the dynamics. Should probably update this. So let's come into my synonyms, and for Jeff, we'll also add the word taco, just so we have another obvious word. But no, it has to be for this one. So let me come in here and do taco. Your question was... Yes. Yes, that means if the only update you push during certification is to update a slot value, it'll happen very quickly, usually within an hour or so. That is absolutely right, Trade Last. Okay, I've added taco. I've not added it to my model, but I am adding it as a dynamic entity because the user is on the first... No, they're not on the first question, so let's get rid of this too. Delete the record. And so now when I load up the game, if I say taco, like tell the skill the answer is taco, it should not match anything. But on my second request, I think it should, if I've presented you with a puzzle. So let's give that a try. Quit this. And then we're going to say, tell scavenger hunt the answer is taco. Now this should be the same kind of result where I have no match. I have a second resolution per authority because I have dynamic entities also. But it didn't match either of them, and I think this is because the dynamic entity hadn't loaded yet. But if I do it this time, still no match. Let's take it a step back. I'm going to open it the traditional way now. So we're just going to say open scavenger hunt. It should present me with my puzzle. I think this intent request that I'm hitting is an error. I've sent you a text message for the puzzle. What is the answer if I say taco here? Now what we're getting is you can see that I have a second authority that is answer, but it has the word dynamic in it. And so it's validating that, yes, they in fact said a synonym for this thing. So what this tells me is that the dynamic entity isn't loaded, which makes sense to me, at least the way that I'm doing it. The dynamic entity only gets updated after I have run one interaction with my user, which generally is okay. I think that's okay. But it means my dynamic entity is working because I'm passing that word taco in. It's not working by default, but once they're in the skill, if they say taco, it is recognizing and able to match the value. Now, the thing that I'm not doing is validating against this potential slot, because you can see that it's two different authorities. We always talk about how, let me go into my code and we'll look at this. But we always talk about how when we do, like I have this get resolved words function, and you can see that we always say resolutions per authority 0, but there's never ever anything other than the 0. So why do they even make it an array? Well, this is why they make it an array, because there's additional potential values. So now what I need to do is create a second version of this. So let's see if we can loop this. For var I equals 0, I is less than or equal to 1, I plus plus. So we'll do it like this. And then what I have to say is, like, I can take all of this stuff up to here. We'll start with this. So I'm going to say, if these things are true, then do this thing. And the thing I'm going to do inside there is going to be this for loop. And in my for loop, I'm just going 0 to 1, but what I should really do is less than resolutions per, I can't just do that. I have to do all of this. Dot length, dot count. Length. Okay, so that is my length value. So I'm going to just now flip through these. And so now the thing that I need is all of this. And I can say another if statement. If that exists, and that exists, and this is going to be I now. Else return undefined. This still lives on here. This goes away. Okay, I think that might work. And so what I've done is I've modified my get resolved words function, where I'm going to find the music is coming from neither Gold Zulu. It's actually in my streaming software. I have a audio track that I've selected from my streaming PC, and it's just playing that in the background as an input for the Grumpy Game Dev. Thanks for the follow, man. It was fun watching you today. Guys, I was tuning into his channel earlier today, and he was in the process of working on a game, and I didn't get to watch for a long time, but he was basically converting a game that was written in C to C++. And all of that made my head hurt, just seeing him battle with some of those languages that I don't spend a lot of time in anymore. So thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it. We're about to wrap up here in about 10 minutes, but I think hopefully we'll have a little bit of success in validating that I got an answer correct. Thanks, Trey Last. Thanks for coming, man. So if we look at this function, just to make sure that I've got this right, get resolved words now goes through and make sure that resolutions per authority exists. If it does, then I'm going to do a for loop where I'm going to go through each of the resolutions that are available, and I'm going to check them for values. If there's a initial value, then I'm going to return all the values. Otherwise, I'm going to return undefined. So let's save that and deploy some code. Target lambda, and let's see what we get from this. So hopefully this won't take more than a second or two, and then we'll run our test just in the browser again. I know sometimes I jump over to Alexa on the stream, but we'll just use the test for now. Okay, so let's quit what I'm doing, and I should be able to say open scavenger hunt. And this should present me with my question. Great. And then I say taco. What I expect to have happen here is that it should say, you got the answer correct. Here's the next puzzle. Anything other than that is failure. And what I did instead was say nothing. I didn't respond in the slightest. Yeah, I like to keep the stakes high here, Grumpy Game Dev, for sure. And of course I did fail. So let's see what happened in there that made me fail. So I got to the answer intent handler and then I did nothing. Okay, well, why is that? If we look at our answer intent handler, we have spoken words and resolved words. This is where I would expect those resolved words to come through. And I think that normally I console log those out. Did I not do that? I didn't even do that. Okay, so we can play here a little bit. And then if resolved words don't equal undefined, well, I must have gotten some resolved words, because otherwise I would have hit this and I would have said, sorry, that answer's wrong. But it didn't say that, it said nothing. So we got in here somehow and then failed. So let's just do a quick console log with resolved words. Like so, and run that test one more time. I think that this will at least give me a clear indication of what values I'm getting and why it's not working. But this seems to me like I have a case here where I have resolved words, then I'm matching to see if the resolved word matches the puzzle that I currently have. And if it does, then I mark a record. But I don't have a case in here where, like, you said a match. I think that's so. There's a empty hole here. What do you do if they match an answer, but it isn't the answer to the current question? It's a great, valid question I hadn't considered there. So let's go look. Go test one more time. We'll quit our skill. We'll open it again. Okay, great. First puzzle, gridlock, what is your answer? I say taco. And I get the same result because I didn't write any new code. So let's take a look at why it thinks that's broken. We're at 11:55, that's perfect. In here, I should say, in my answer intent, here's the resolved words. So I don't have an ID in there. Am I not putting the ID? Well, okay, so when we, in the puzzle thing, this is where we update the dynamic entities. Session attributes.game.fields.record ID. What did the response look like here? Trey Tomlin, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate you being here. Have a good one. Have a good lunch. When I come in here to this dynamic entities, I am not providing the ID. Well, that's the thing I want to match on. So why am I not doing that? Session attributes game 0 fields record ID. Because it's not that, it's just this. .id. I think I can get away with that shortcut if I know the object model well enough in my head. So let's see if that gets us an ID. I hadn't even considered that might be a problem. Okay, so code is updated. Back to the test. Quit. Open scavenger hunt. Give me the first question. Taco. That's correct, you nailed it. Well, that means it worked, right? That means that if we go to the log, I love when it works right before we finish. That's good. The big payoff for those of you that stuck around till the end. 57. If we come in here, I should see a response builder where my directive has IDs. There is the ID. And then down here, this is where we check to make sure that they got the right response, and the response that I gave to the user was, that is correct, you nailed it, here's your next puzzle. Why do I have a quotation mark in there though? Why am I passing a quote? So this is going to be the puzzle intent handler still. I'm going to answer my phone because why not? Hello? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. I have a few doctors that are trying to get a hold of me, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing their call, but that was just spam. So my puzzle function here, I take pre-speech somewhere. I have this pre-speech value. Pre-speech is here. Kevin Evans with the subscribe. Thank you, man. You guys are awesome. Pre-speech is there, which means that I pass that in from the answer intent, which is here. Is it possible that's in my database that way? I suppose it is possible. Let's see. Correct response. It's in my database that way. There we go. Found it. Okay, so that feels fantastic then. What a great way to stop. We have our skill working. I'm going to quit and try this one more time just to make sure that everything is proper, and I have to go back and delete that record. Data, user puzzle, go away. And then here we will say open scavenger hunt. It's going to ask me the first question. What is your answer? I say taco, which is a synonym for the right answer. And it says that I nailed it. And that writes a record to my database. Boom, boom, we got it. So that was a little dramatic maybe for what we just did, but I am super excited. So that's working. We now have dynamic entities flowing into the skill. We're validating those dynamic entities against the user's input and making sure that they actually match the answer for the question that we asked them. This has been an awesome day. I think we made some good progress. We talked about Twitch. We got the lamp thing working. So thank you guys all again for playing along here. And you can see that if we come back to our stuff, like this lamp stuff is still rolling, right? LAMP, and then we can say red. All right, maybe we'll say green because everything's working right now, except for those text messages. We'll have to figure that out at some point. Did it work? Yeah, there we go. So thank you guys all for tuning in. It's noon. It's time for me to get back to the regular workday, have some lunch. But I'll see you guys all again here on Monday. Bring your friends. Remember, we're trying to get to 75 viewers all at the same time for a whole session. That'll make a huge impact. So if you know people that are looking for things to do while they're working from home, have them tune in. Maybe they'll learn something new about Alexa or JavaScript or Node or Airtable or who knows what. But I'd love to have them here. It would make a big difference. And we'll also figure out on Monday. Let's make this a goal for those of you that are still here. We're going to figure out what we should do when we get to 500 followers. We need to come up with a final answer. So think about it over the weekend. And then we'll also talk about how we want to do, like Kevin just gave me a subscription. What are we going to do with that money? How are we going to donate that? How are we going to make somebody's life better, ideally in a technology world because of it? So think on those things. Bring me some thoughts when you come here on Monday, and we'll get into all of that right off the bat. So thank you guys all for tuning in. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.